Welcome, guys. We're back for another episode of The Lock-In, sponsored by Unibet Poker. I'm David Lappin, alongside Dara O'Carney, who I believe is grinding the Unibet PKO series as we speak right now. So if he does lose his train of thought, please be forgiving of him. He's simultaneously going to have to answer questions and figure out his equity in all-in call spots. Dara, how's the grind going for you?
It's going pretty well. I'm in the lower reaches of the top 20 on both leaderboards at the moment. So top 20 are paid on that leaderboard. So I'll be grinding that hard for the rest of the week. It's been good to get back to online. I've played so little online since I even got back from Vegas. I think I only played about 2 days before I started traveling again. So it's nice to know that I can still remember how to play online.
Yeah, the live poker boom's pretty relentless these days. Well, look, this week we have a very special guest. Speaking of live poker boom, he has been a Chip Race guest a few times, but this is his first time on the Lock-In. He's the 2006 Online Player of the Year, the 2016 Aussie Millions Main Event Champion, an MSPT winner in 2017, a bracelet winner in 2019, a two-time Heartland Poker Tour champion, and a 15-time WSOP Circuit Ring winner. All told, he has won 45 live poker tournaments, amassing 8.4 million in live tournament winnings in the process. He is, of course, our good pal, Ari Engel. Ari, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, David. Hi, Dara. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you on the show, Ari, particularly on the heels of all those good results. We do want to get to maybe the specifics of some of that stuff a little bit later on. But first, I want to talk to you a bit about health and fitness. I remember, Ari, your first visit to the show, you explaining the life of a traveling pro. And the one thing you emphasized actually was diet. You talked about how easy it is to slip into bad eating habits when you're living a nomadic existence. And that's certainly something I think Dara, and probably even more so, I can relate to from my poker travels. Dara is better at choosing wisely off menus and still getting runs in. Is that something you still successfully prioritize?
It's a battle for sure. And I have my better times and my worst times. When it comes to going to the gym, when it comes to eating well, it's rough. I think most of us don't really have, and for sure myself, don't have this like healthy attitude when it comes to doing well or busting out of tournaments. So when you lose a tournament, you're like, F it, I'll just eat whatever. And when yes, exactly. That's definitely one of my go-tos. And then on the other hand, when you win, also it's like, okay, I'll celebrate and eat bad stuff. So it's just kind of so easy to and then also when you're playing, it's like you don't have a long time, so you just kind of go for the convenient thing. It's very, very tough to eat well, and then a lot of times you have a late night and it's tough to wake up and just want to go to the gym. So it's a battle, and I find myself going up and down when it comes to weight and being healthy. I'm currently in a little bet where we have to do 10,000 steps a day. Otherwise, there's a financial penalty. So that's a little something to make sure. And, I've done the 10,000 steps now probably for like 6 months straight, haven't missed a day. So that's something, but I've had quite a few. My share of ice cream is also pretty high. So yeah, it's a battle.
Well, you've had a lot of reasons to celebrate wins as well. So I guess, yeah, that's the problem then when the ice cream kicks in for the wins and you win too much.
I mean,
Dara, on this, go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, for every one win, there's many, many tournament losses. So yeah, even during a good run, you're getting out of tournaments far more often. And I'd like to say me and Jason Kuhn have very similar mottos when it comes to health and fitness, but that would be a lie.
Well, look, on this subject, Dara, you penned an excellent blog on Vegas Slots Online last week. You made the disclaimer, of course, that you aren't a nutritionist nor are you a health specialist. But to be fair, you are a former ultra runner who still routinely runs marathon-length training runs each week. And, I hope this is okay to say, but you are a decent way into your 50s. So your opinion, in my opinion, is worth listening to. With the life of a poker player in mind, what are your main pieces of advice when it comes to diet and exercise?
Yeah, well, first of all, I have enormous respect for people like Gary who are literally on the road all the time and are still able to maintain a pretty healthy lifestyle and diet, because I find it extremely difficult when I play live poker to do either. Now, we spent last week in Barcelona. I did get out for a couple of runs and made an effort to eat as healthy as possible. But with the best will in the world, I kind of always take the attitude on these live trips, look, it's never going to be as good or as healthy as I am at home. I'm just going to have to accept there's going to be a certain degradation. And then I work in the periods between trips to sort of get super fit, as fit as I can, which is why I still do so much training. On the diet thing, I would say that one worrying trend I've spotted in poker is that there just seems to be a different fad every so often. There's very much a sort of a temptation for people to go to quick fix diets, and most fad diets are at least somewhat effective in the short term, but it's usually by tricking certain parts of the body or adjusting water, all that sort of stuff. My experience as a runner was very much that you just have to eat healthily across the board. People used to ask, when you run a 24-hour race, for example, you have to consume 20,000 calories in that 24 hours, which is what an average person eats in a week. And how do you do that while running? And you very quickly find out that if you eat too much of anything, your body will just get sick and break down. So what you end up doing in a 24-hour race is you end up eating as much as you can of absolutely everything. And I think that's just a kind of a good general approach to diet, to have a very mixed, varied diet. Don't eat too much of any one thing. Eat a small amount of all the stuff that's healthy. And that way you're sort of covering all your bases, making sure that you're getting all the proper nutrition.
Yeah, solid advice there. You mentioned Barcelona. Turning now to, I guess, the subject of Barcelona. We just got back from the Estrellas. We explained in the last lock-in our reasons for not playing the EPT. It's well publicized that the tax situation is murky in Spain. Ari, we spoke about this last week actually by message, and you expressed similar concerns. I know EPT Barcelona is a festival you've attended many times in the past. Aided by 2 extra starting flights, the Estrellas broke the 1K record for Europe, but it was noticeable that in the higher buy-in stuff, the smaller fields, it was smaller fields compared to previous years, if you like. I don't know if that's going to continue into the 10K, which I'm not sure has it started yet. It might have just started today, but very noticeable with the kind of the high roller stuff, you like the 25K and up, that those fields are way, way down. And from what everyone was saying, it was because of that tax concern. Did you have much conversation in your circles about the Spanish tax situation? I'm guessing, if ever the American kind of guys are going to come over to Europe, it's for a stop like Barcelona, and a lot of them didn't this year.
Yeah, I hate to give you guys compliments. It really pains me, but I think you guys did a really good job last week discussing that. No, like my circle doesn't, my close friends don't really consider traveling to Europe much. So there wasn't that discussion, but, I had the discussion for myself, and I was looking for resources. And so I was glad to listen to what you guys had to say. Ultimately I decided, I'm anyway like playing a lot more mixed game stuff now. So it wasn't quite as tempting as it would. I probably would have played in past years, given this situation. Also, the way U.S. taxes work, I don't think it would be the same negative effect on a U.S. player that it might be on a player that comes from a country where you don't have to pay taxes on poker income. I believe that if someone like me pays taxes in a different country, I wouldn't get double taxed. So, given that it has been a profitable year for me, I'm anyway going to have to pay X percentage of taxes. So if some of it went to the Spanish government instead, I don't think it would have much of a negative effect.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that it would offset. I thought that maybe you would just pay it all in America, but maybe the Spanish get first dibs on that. Dara, I remember you telling me that. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, if it I don't know who would get first, but I don't think I would be double penalized or double taxed. So yeah, I'm not sure who would get first dibs.
Yeah, Dara, I remember when we chatted about this, you talked about your previous work in consultancy and said that, you know, for certain jobs, the Irish government, you know, would tax you at home. But if you know, like let's say it was Germany or Spain or whatever it was back then, they would sort of have first claim on it. Is that sort of the way it worked?
Yeah, pretty much. There needs to be what's called a double taxation agreement between the two countries. There is one between Ireland and the States, for example, which was set up because there were so many Irish companies setting up in Ireland, and you know they wanted to have employees, American employees, and they didn't have to pay double tax. Now that's worked out for them, but it's also worked out great for us. It means when we go to the WSOP, we don't have to pay any tax, even though we're paying zero tax in Ireland. We also pay zero tax in the States. I'm not sure about the legal situation between Spain and the USA. I think Spain certainly has double taxation agreements with most of their EU partners, but not all, as I understand it. So yeah, it was interesting talking to Americans, because Americans are so used to the idea that they should be taxed anyway on poker that you know, one American I spoke to went, well, like 19% is not much. I'd have to pay more than that back home. So. I think it probably had less impact on Americans than it had on, say, people like us who live in countries where we're just not used to paying tax on poker income. Yeah,
good point. Dara, you obviously joked on Twitter about how you spared yourself any tax worries by bricking the trip. For the record, I pretty much broke even, so I'm probably not worth chasing if there's anyone from the Spanish Tributaria Agencia out there. Yeah, just, you know, maybe go after one of the others. But joking aside, a brick trip is a rare thing in Dokeland. In fact, you've been cashing so much this past year or so, I actually can't remember the last time it happened to you. I know you're too long in the tooth, shall we say, to be bothered by a sample size of 8 or 9 tournaments or whatever it was. But I do remember that epic bad run we shared, Dara, I think it was around 2014, when combined, I think we cashed 1 out of 37 tournaments across 5 away trips. And needless to say, we didn't make for great company for each other during that period. Do you have any tips for players who are on a bad run, specifically in the live arena, where perhaps there is that greater feeling of emotional investment and time investment?
Yeah, I mean, when I go through those periods, I just remind myself of how ridiculously small live sample sizes always are. You know, even that run was less than an average Sunday, and we've all had Sundays where we bricked everything. So it's going to happen, and you just kind of have to accept that it is part of the long term. If you're doing it for long enough, if you're doing it in the short term, you know, you can run very well and maybe get out and never have to experience that. But it's really just a matter of, yeah. And another thing I would say is that it depends on what you're playing. Like, I remember during that run, we were mostly playing fairly fast turbo side events, and you know, the variance is going to be even higher in those than, say, the really slow structured stuff that a lot of people play. So, you know, maybe guys grinding the 45-man Tritons that all have reasonably good structures are not going to be likely to have the same bad runs. But if you're playing 2,000 runner fields with fast structures, you are going to have a bad run like that. And you just kind of have to zoom out and just realize, you know, if you look at your shark scope graph for online, even if it's a solid winning graph going up, if you zoom in on any part of it, most of the time you're going down. The nature of tournament poker is you're on a downswing almost all the time. And, you know, I'm coaching one of my students was asking me about this recently. He sent me his graph and it was incredibly impressive. But he said, like, yeah, but if you take out the wins, it's not that impressive. And I was like, well, that's literally the way tournaments work. That is how tournaments work. And you just kind of have to remind yourself that, you know, we keep showing up. We're going to lose our money most of the time, but hopefully in the long run, unless you're on as well as Ari, and like Ari apparently just doesn't downswing.
Well, two things with Ari. Firstly, I do actually remember about 12 years ago or more, maybe, an early interview of yours, Ari, where you said a phrase which I really liked and I've copied many times down the years, where you said losing is part of a winning strategy, which I just thought was a very nice, succinct way of explaining it. But also I did notice that, you know, if you took out your wins, it does become a little grim, because you seem to win a lot of your tournaments. I was going through your seconds and your thirds, 45 wins, but I think it was 26 seconds and 16 thirds. So your conversion rate's pretty awesome there. Given the volume you play, you might be, maybe in the top 5 in the world, I'm guessing, for live bullets fired in any given year. You must have seen all the streaks at this point, good and bad ones. Any epic bad ones that stand out?
I in 2014, that was also coincidentally the last time I lost a race, but in 2014, the first half of the year, probably like including World Series, I think my biggest buy-in outside of the WSOP main during that time was like 3,500. There were a lot of 400s and things like that. And I went on this only live tournament, probably like 100 to 150K downswing during that time. So that was a pretty bad one. I did get lucky and win the scoop low main event during that time for around a similar amount. So that $100 tournament equaled out to all the high buy-in live stuff. But I would say all this is people talk about bankroll management and things like that, and making sure you don't take too much of yourself in a live tournament. There is a lot of talk about taking shots, and I've heard people talking about that, but I think all this like underscores the importance of playing at buy-ins where if you lose 10 in a row, it's not going to affect you financially. It probably will affect you somewhat mentally, but hopefully not too much. But yeah, it underscores the importance of, kind of the boring stuff, like bankroll management, like approaching the game in a professional manner, you're being your own boss and things like that.
Yeah, you joked about something there, but it is actually something I've really noticed about you. I think Dara and I may have actually had a chat about this, or maybe it was myself and someone else, of how you do like to post. It was me, was it? You know where I'm going with this? Yeah. You do like to post the, oh my God, I'm running so well. Oh my God, I can't lose a race kind of post. And I wondered if that was like actually something you genuinely feel like you are particularly sun running, or is it like more baked into a mindset that you just want to feel lucky and it's a sort of a mental or mindset position that you would prefer to take? Because obviously a lot of people in poker take the other one, the I run so bad kind of people.
No, it's not a mental trick. Basically, what was happening was in my like private groups throughout the past few years, it just became apparent like that it's just like crazy. I mean, there's always, you run deep in a tournament, there's always the player that has aces, there's always the player that has kings with 8 people left in a big tournament. And it's just like, I'm always the player that has aces in those spots. And, when I got the kings, the king comes. And after years of this happening, privately, I just was like, okay, let's, we might as well talk about it publicly. It is just insane the way I mean, it has to be, right? There has to be someone that runs in the top few percentile, and there has to be people that run bad. There has to be people that run even. And it just like, I can go back spot after spot after spot. You talk about, some of those big tournaments. I mean, I would start talking about the beats that I've delivered. It's just, it is truly insane how good I've run. Now I think I'm pretty good. I think I play decently, but 8 people left in Aussie Millions. I was first. The player who was third had kings. The 2,500 bracelet event I won, like afterwards I posted like, this was 2019. I wasn't, none of this like Twitter bit was happening, but it was like 15 or 18 different like flips are better that I won. Like it just is completely crazy how this keeps happening to me.
Well, long may it continue. I mentioned
I hope so. Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, although it would be nice to experience at some stage, the pain of poker. At some stage, I don't want it to happen all the time, but at least want to be able to have empathy with some of my, poker playing compatriots, because, I don't know, those kind of stuff don't happen to me.
Well, I mentioned EPT Barcelona, which is obviously ongoing as we record this. The other really big EPT each year is Prague, and last year Prague faced tough competition, must be said, for the first time in the form of an absolutely brilliant WPT in the Wynn. Nonetheless, it managed to break some records. So, it just shows how boomy poker really is these days, and how Stars still did very well out of one of their flagship events, if we like. Probably Barcelona's the big one, but second biggest anyway. This year it will face further competition as the WPT Wynn and GG WSOP Bahamas all clash with us. It's an interesting decision, it must be said, by GG WSOP, who have started a multi-front war in a sense with this scheduling choice. Online, they're going to battle it out for Stars for all that like satellite liquidity. Stars have just launched their Power Path, so clearly recognizing that they're in a bit of a war, they've come up with a good innovation there. And live, there will be this sort of battle for America with WPT, who should benefit enormously, it must be said, from all the goodwill around that fantastic event last year. Ari, you're obviously someone who is somewhat loyal to the WSOP and WSOP circuit as well, but you do spread your volume around too. Where do you think you'll be?
Well, as you know, in discussing coordinating this discussion that we're having, you were like, okay, 2 days from now, what's the story? I don't know where I'm going to be. So yeah, 2 days from now, I don't know where I'm going to be. Months from now, I really don't know. I would have to, if I'm going to lean in one direction, where I think most likely it'll be the Wynn.
Sorry, I was sure you were just going to be like, it's going to be a circuit event in Poughkeepsie. I think that's where I'll be. That's.
I mean, if there is something going on in Iowa at that time, obviously that's my go-to. But Wynn is one of my favorite places to play in the world. I've played quite a fair amount in the last few years, cash games at the Wynn. I play a lot of the tournaments there, and throughout the years I have played quite a bit of WPT. I just haven't had success. So or like the really big results when it comes to the WPT stuff. So it's not like I don't support them. I'm a big Matt Savage fan and a big fan of not being overly loyal to any one brand. I think the competition in the poker industry is amazing, and I felt I played basically only World Series this year, but every other year I've spread it around. And the only reason I played only World Series was for fantasy draft purposes. The team that picked me really went out of their way to incentivize me to play World Series stuff. And I kind of felt obligated when the decisions were close to kind of return it to them by not playing the Orleans 308.
Well, look, the WPT haven't announced yet, but there is mutterings of a 40 million guarantee in the 10K main. That's obviously an insane number. They guaranteed 15 last year, got 29. If that number happens to be true, they're really going for it. And they're sort of, if GG have declared war on them, well, they're sort of, more or less saying, bring it on. It does blow GG's 15 million out of the water, but then you think about, well, how many people will be in Prague, and that would probably get 7 or 8 million without a guarantee. It just feels as though, like, I don't know if there's that many people who play poker in 5Ks or more out there in the world, but I guess we're going to find out pretty soon. Dara, where would you like to go the most?
Definitely the Wynn. I think we were there last year, and it was my favorite event of the year outside of Ireland. It was pretty special. If they put a 40 million guarantee on it, that'll be absolutely huge too. I think GG are kind of taking the approach that, yeah, we'll put a big guarantee, but we'll mostly rely on the power of the bracelet. Now, they're giving out about 200 of those things every year, so it feels like a diminishing brand. It's certainly something which I'm not as motivated by as I used to be. Prague is always, I think Prague will get primarily the European crowd. I mean, there's a lot of people who just won't travel that far for a poker tournament anyway in December. So particularly when there's a good festival on in Europe at the same time. So yeah, I would definitely be leaning towards the Wynn. The Wynn is my favorite place to play in Vegas, bar none. And the event last year, which was the first, was a massive success, and they really looked after the player experience, let's say, which I don't think there'll be the same can be said of the WSOP or even Stars these days.
Yeah, I think an interesting aspect to all of this actually is how PokerStars, I'm pretty sure we're already planning to pull out of the Bahamas and the PCA. So it does feel a little like GG are picking up sloppy seconds here with a venue that has been historically plagued with problems. We obviously had Tom Hall on a recent show, and he described issues he had getting pulled off a plane to be searched for money he didn't have, and then missing said plane in the process. A bit of a nightmare story there. And there are even worse ones online down the years if you read them. Aside from that, Atlantis is violently expensive place to go as well. So yeah, all things do point to the Wynn sort of, continuing their success, and maybe this GGWSOP event may come a cropper, but you never know. They've obviously got the power of the online brand that will satellite people from all over the world, regardless of territory or territorial restrictions. So they do manage to pull rabbits out of hats sometimes there. Anyway, yeah, I guess that would.
Before we move on, man, I think the one area where there might be massive value is in the online satellites. Even for the WSOP period, a lot of the satellites overlaid, including the one that I got into the main event. That's why, in fact, I ended up max laid regging, because there was essentially a 30-40% overlay at that point. I think these ones have the potential to overlay even more. So if I'm sure they'll qualify the right number, the number that they've said, but it may cost them quite a lot of money to do so.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about this one, Ari, but Dara played a satellite for, I think it was like 3 minutes and 40 seconds and won his WSOP seat this year, wasn't it?
It was actually 21 minutes. But
sorry, yeah.
It was pretty decent hourly. Yeah, it's just that I happened to notice that the satellite was overlaying very heavily. So I clicked the reg button at the last possible minute and got lucky, obviously.
Indeed. Well, look, you mentioned there how devalued this the WSOP jewellery is these days. That segues perfectly now to Ari, your recent successes on the felt. You recently attended the WSOP Circuit event in Northern California, a 10-day festival in the Grattan Casino, I think it was, in Rohnert Park, that had 20 ring events attached. Bang smack in the middle of that festival, on consecutive evenings, you took down back-to-back tournaments in the Horse and Big O events. No sooner was the ink dry on articles celebrating your 14th circuit ring when poker journalists were scrambling to write a follow-up on your record-tying 15th. I read poker.org's Brad Willis's article. It was a great one, actually, one of the best articles of the year so far. He said maybe you're the best grinder among the legion of grinders on the WSOP circuit. What did you feel when you read that?
Yeah, I think he's a great writer, and it kind of brought me back to the day when there was more articles like that. I for some reason I'm thinking of Paulie, who used to write Dow Paulie, or whatever. Yeah, so like I kind of remember a lot of articles with that kind of more flowery language and things like that. So yeah, I appreciate that. Also, I have to give a shout out to my marketing department, who did an unbelievable job. I've never seen so many articles written about 250-person or 60-person tournament wins for a combined 10,000 or 12,000. So yeah, my marketing team, and it's quite a big team. We really they're all getting bonuses, and yeah, they did fantastic. It's one of those things where winning a lot of these circuit rings, you kind of as a poker player, you'd like to be in the position where you're not winning so many of them, because if you get good enough, you don't want to play $300 and $400 live tournaments. But I kind of know where I belong, and so I'm playing a lot of the minor league stuff, and that's kind of it's good. I make a living this way, and I get to play against weaker competition, but yeah, if a lot of people say if I had the bankroll, you know, that these trident fools would be they'd be all out of a job. You know, Chidwick and these guys, they'd have no shot against me. Yeah,
wasting all that run good in these 400 games.
Yes. Imagine where I'd be if I ran average. It'd be scary. Yeah. So it's you know, it's nice, and it's nice to win any tournament that you enter, but obviously, for sure, you know, seeing like 13 articles about it, it kind of is a little bit, I don't know what the word is. Yeah.
You have your fanboys and fangirls in many places, clearly. It's interesting what you said there. It sort of brings me to my next point, actually. The term grinder, which, you know, obviously Brad used there, it's kind of double-edged in a way. In some contexts, it is obviously a mark of respect. It's a sort of an acknowledgement of professionalism and hard work. In others, though, it's sort of derisive too, kind of the opposite of baller, definitely a version of poker that would have maybe all the James Bond stuff removed. How do you feel about that phrase?
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of think that like the hard work thing is like misapplied to someone that plays a lot of tournaments, especially a lot of low buy-in tournaments, because, you know, a lot of the work that you can do nowadays would be off the felt. And so someone like me that plays too much poker is not doing enough of the off the felt work, and it just doesn't really feel like it's work, you know, that much, just showing up and playing some tournaments and, you know, putting in the reps in that regard. I play a lot of live tournaments. I don't know if grinder is the word for that or whatever. I mean, for sure, I enter, you know, in the last decade, I've entered into more live tournaments than anyone. I can't imagine that anyone, you know, I haven't had a home since 2012. So yeah, I play a lot of these tournaments. I'm gonna get a lot of results, but as you guys know, maybe not everyone knows, you know, Head the Mob and those kind of sites don't track entries. So you know, it looks better on paper than it is. No complaints. I'm doing well, but there's a lot of entries that go into any one win or any, you know, set of wins, and I don't know, you know, there is no James Bond aspect to the way I live. Maybe, you know, I imagine, like, I mean, watching some of the, you know, social media, you know, guys like controversial Bring Kenny, you know, for sure do live the more, you know, that kind of lifestyle. But
more Bond villain, surely, in that case.
Yeah. But yeah, I play small buy-in tournaments. I win some of them, I lose a lot of them. And I'm not that good at poker. I'm good enough to win. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, Dara, a quick question for you on this one. Obviously, you do an awful lot of coaching, and I suppose unless you're an incredible raw talent, there has to be some amount of grinding, at least in the beginning of a career. And I know you do coach a lot of, you know, up and coming guys. You mentioned a couple of up and coming Irish players that you've sort of said to me are ones to watch in the future as well. How much do you sort of try to instill a grinder mentality into them? And is it, I suppose, healthy to do so? Like, should people be shooting for the stars a little bit more, or should they be very much knuckling down, in your opinion?
I think they should very much be knuckling down. The way poker has changed over the course of our careers is that at the start you could get by on a certain amount of, for want of a better word, natural talent or natural aptitude, and you didn't really have to work away from the table. That's kind of gone now. You know, there's always going to be guys who are going to work harder if you're not going to work. It's kind of a double-edged sword when you're starting, because it means like guys get good much faster than they used to. Like, we've seen guys who weren't playing at the start of the pandemic, and now they're among the best players in the world. Yeah. And that's because there's so much content, so much information out there for them to study. So that's kind of the path now to poker success. It's putting in a lot of work, but also I think particularly the way online is going, the margins are shrinking online. More and more players let's say there's more like there's less dead money and there's more good players competing for that dead money. So the margins are coming down, which means that if you want to make a decent living online, particularly since a lot of guys need to be staked, so therefore they're giving up a percentage of their profits, they just have to do very high volume. And that's a skill in itself, like being able to play high volume 5-6 days a week, do long sessions. That's a skill which is necessary to thrive in the current online environment, and it's a skill that not everybody has. There are some guys who come to me, they're great at poker, but they just can't grind like that. So they're never going to make a huge amount online unless they put so much work in that they become one of the best players in the world, and then they can beat all the high stuff where you don't have to play massive volume. But for sort of the mid stakes grinders now, that is the path. The edges are just much lower. You're going to have to put in the volume to make a decent living.
Yeah, very good advice. I have to wholeheartedly agree. I do think it's funny when I started, I looked at the period before and was like, oh my God, I wish I'd played earlier because it was amazing, and now it's hard. But every year that goes by, you look back on the last couple of years and think it was easier, and that sort of never seems to stop. So yeah, I think you're right. And I think we have reached a point where it's especially hard now. Ari, you are very modest. You've been very modest in this interview actually as well, because you're joking about like 40 runner, 60 runner horse events or whatever for 400 quid or whatever it is. But like actually in reality, these are pieces of a puzzle. These are pieces of a much bigger achievement, which is those 45 wins and these 15 circuit rings and whatever. And I'm interested to know how much you actually think about legacy, if at all, beyond obviously just playing for a living. How much maybe are you invested in a number, if that's like a number of wins at the end of your career, or a financial number? And how much would something like now being tied at the top of the circuit ring leaderboard play into the idea of legacy?
So I've always looked to motivate myself in non-monetary ways, because obviously the main thing, that's what I do for a living, so the monetary stuff kind of talks for itself. But I started playing for a living in 2004, so it's been a long time, and it's there's thankfully I'm in the situation where even if I go on a bad run for the next 6 months, I'm going to be able to pay my bills and my rent. So I don't have that sense of hunger from the financial stuff, at least in the short term. So looking for non-financial motivations has always been at least the last 10 years something that I've tried to find in different ways. So whether it's a leaderboard, or now that I'm close to the top, or at the top of the ring list, yeah, for sure, that I do find that motivating. And if it's close, I'll play a circuit event now rather than some other brand because of that. But I wouldn't try and overplay a minor league title. I don't think being it'd be cool. It'd be cool for sure to get it. But at the same time, it's it's not like this huge thing in my life that you can see from my answer, I'm kind of a little bit torn how to, yeah.
No, well, again, I think it's a lot of modesty coming out, but also like you have a good head on your shoulders. You're not kind of losing the plot either. I get both sides of that. Finally, question for you, Ari. We've spoken to quite a few players down the years who've traveled the world circuit for any length of time, and then actually kind of got sick of it, and actually really these days love the fact that they've settled down and do much less travel. Can you imagine a time where you travel less and settle down like that?
Yeah, so when COVID hit, that I was always going back and forth between online and live, and throughout the 2010s, I would play the big series online almost every year, and then when US states started legalizing online poker, I would start traveling. I remember when Pennsylvania legalized online poker in November 19, I ended up going there and just like I had been to Prague every year of the 2010s. And I ended up skipping EPT Prague just to stay and play online poker, which 4 months later I regretted because live poker was not around and I was going to be playing online for the next year and a half. So yeah, so basically, you know, when COVID came, I started playing tons online again, and I really enjoyed it. And I have since then played a lot more online than I had in, you know, the 2015 to 2019 period. And I like going back and forth between the two. The actual settling down and getting a place. There isn't any one place that I want to live right now. So I think the games in Vegas are like, you know, a $400 live tournament in Vegas is just like so much tougher than any other $400 live tournament anywhere else. So it just feels kind of dumb to be playing live tournaments out of Vegas. The online stuff are, you know, but are also tougher than at least the other U.S. States. Too many professionals are part of the pool. When it comes to tax purposes, the other states that have legal online poker are much worse situation to live in. When it comes to like international stuff, I don't know. There's no like I kind of like the English speaking kind of Western lifestyle. You know, where it's more in my comfort zone. I don't really speak other languages, and there's just not as many. I don't like, you know, the Montreal winters. I don't like the Vancouver rain. My family lives in America. So like each place kind of has its like, you know, pros and cons. And yeah, I mean, at times I do get, you know, of course, like in a downswing, the traveling is not as exciting. I do get like a fresh sense of motivation or something excitement, I guess, at the beginning of a stop. So it's amazing, like my mindset, the last tournament of one stop compared to the first tournament of the next stop. There's this sense of renewal and excitement that comes from that. And I like the freedom and flexibility of, you know, I don't know where I'll be, and I get to choose and kind of have a lot of like, you know, I can choose to go play. I was looking at like this mixed game schedule in Taiwan and seriously considering going to that. And the fact that I don't have a rent or a mortgage and that would end up, you know, having double expenses makes it so that lower buying stuff become more playable because you don't have the double expense.
Yeah, it makes an awful lot of sense. I will give a shout out here to the Irish summers. Dara, you'd agree they're very pleasant. Give them a go at some point, maybe, Ari. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been living abroad for so long now. You probably don't realize, but actually, our summers have gotten better.
Have they?
Shout out to global warming.
Well, in fairness, I was a cricketer, so I was out there during the summers.
Yeah, it's quite funny. Like people have gone from sort of like Ireland's the worst place in Europe to spend summer to. Actually, it's not the worst place. The worst place is some of these places that have got insanely hot now, and Ireland's actually sort of very mild by comparison. Yeah, no, we get up into the high 20s, which is sort of the pleasant temperature, not the high 30s, which, as we found out last week, is not the pleasant temperature.
There you go, Ari. There's an idea in case you ever do settle down.
I can't imagine going anywhere else outside of Vegas in the summer. It's just amazing weather, and when the World Series is over, I stay for another 6 weeks just for the weather.
Well, look, before we go, sticking with the topic of poker travel, I guess in a way is a very hard segue. I want to remind everyone about all the satellites to live events we're currently running on Unibet Poker. There is a weekly Deep Stack Open seat-only final, which can be used in the upcoming Malta Poker Festival. I know that's a very popular stop for people. It's running over the Halloween period this year. Also on Halloween is the IPO, and we have a weekly final on Sundays for both the IPO 350 main event. That's about in your ballpark there, Ari, if you fancy a 350 in Dublin. There we go. There's a 50 quid satellite to that. And the IPO Chip Race Classic, which, you know, as we know, whenever we do this, Dara, it really becomes the real main event. It will be a 2-day tourney played over that same weekend. It's a 200 quid seat. And the study for that one is $25 again on a Sunday on Unibet. A reminder also that the big one that we're building up to at the end of the year, which doesn't clash with any of that other stuff, where we they didn't dare clash with our event, Dara. They went against each other, but they forgot about us the week before. The Unibet Open Bucharest will be November 28th to December 2nd. There's a 250 quid satellite to that one into our 2K package, which is really worth about $2.5 grand because I've seen how much we give away. And that's also played on a Sunday. On that note, it remains for me to thank our fantastic guest, Ari Engel.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I don't have a Romanian flag yet. So the Bucharest tournament sounds pretty exciting.
That's actually going to be a great event. So yeah, you should give that one serious consideration. And Dara, thank you too.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Bucharest. That's probably the thing I'm looking forward to most now for the rest of the year.
Yeah, got to agree with that one. I haven't been back in the Romanian capital for, I think it was maybe 3 years ago we were last there. And the Marriott Hotel there really is one of the best poker venues. It's just a big open plan hotel where all the players can kind of hang out in the foyer as well when they're in Losers Lounge and haven't made any money. Anyway, on that dreary, depressing note of reminding people that sometimes you don't cash in poker tournaments when you play them, take care, everyone.